I saw a video of you talking yesterday answering a question about disability issues, and I wanted to say I really enjoyed your answer. And I have two quick follow-ups from that. One is, how will you help change the stigma that people with both visible and invisible disabilities face so they can achieve the American dream, as well as people with disabilities are twice as likely to be victims of crime? How will you change that tide?
Well, that second one is tough, obviously. That's an issue that I probably need to spend more time working on with all of you in terms of, I know the statistic. Obviously, I think one of the hardest things for us to accept is that the federal government is a limited form of government. Not every challenge in America has a federal solution to that problem. And I would say that many of the crimes that people, disabled and not disabled, face in America are under local jurisdictions. And so clearly that's an issue that I think needs to be confronted there. On the first part, the stigma. The stigma, I don't think is necessarily on this. I think where you see the stigma is in mental illness. There's a real stigma about mental illness in America. There still remains some level of shame about it. There still remains some level of denial about it in many families. I don't know of any family that hasn't been impacted to some extent by it. And I think we need to remove that. We need to begin to explain to people that mental illness is a disease, not unlike any other disease. That in some cases can be cured and managed. In other cases, it's something we'll have to live with chronically for the rest of your lives, and we should do things to help people deal with that. So I think removing the stigma, largely, I think what you can do from the presidency is talk about these things. Use the platform of the presidency to explain that. In terms of more visible disabilities, I think that technology in the 21st century has allowed us to allow people to be more functional than they've ever been before. And one of the challenges we face in this country is the impediments that people with disabilities have towards acquiring the skills that allow them to become employable. And so I think closing that gap is a critical component of it, which is, again, why I believe in things like, and I don't know if you came in a little later, but I talked about competency-based learning, which allows individuals to acquire the equivalent of a degree or a certificate program based on their ability to prove competency in a subject matter that they learned on their own, thereby lowering the barriers to entry to certain professions. So one of the great things about the 21st century is that technology and innovation has allowed people that do suffer from significant physical disabilities to still be productive workers in the 21st century economy. But we need to ensure that they have the ability to acquire those skills in a cost and time effective way. And that's where I think advances in competency-based learning could truly be helpful. And the other is in the K-12 system. There are a lot of children in America that face a host of disabilities. It could be the broad spectrum that covers autism. It could be a host of other issues. And oftentimes their parents live in a school district that does not provide adequate resources for children facing those challenges. And that's why I'm a big supporter of what's called the Corporate Scholarship Plan, which would allow corporations and other businesses to pay a portion of their corporate tax liability, a portion of it, instead of paying it to the government, to donate it to not-for-profit scholarship organizations that give out scholarships to financially needy families so that they can place their children in a private school of their choice that in fact might provide the services that their children need. This is particularly important for those who have disabled children. And I go back to the issue of autism that I've done some work on. If children do not get that early intervention in those first few years, the chances of being able to address it becomes harder and harder as every year goes on. And there's a wide plethora. And autism is especially tough because it has a medical component to it. There's a medical manifestation, whether it's nutrition or there's all sorts of medical things that come about as it. But there's also all sorts of other behavioral issues that need to be confronted early on for them to be functional in a classroom.